in manufacturing the insulators. The most commonly used material for preparing or manufacturing the insulator is porcelain. Now, there is a particular process due to applying which the porcelain insulators are manufactured, which have been presented in the slide. Wet process porcelain or toughened glass, these are the two materials. Porcelain insulators are most commonly used insulating material, porcelain. And as you see, in most of the cases, the porcelain insulators are glazed in brown color over the exposed surfaces, obviously. But sometimes cream colored porcelain insulators are also available. For construction of glass insulators, the material is placed in a furnace that heats it above its annealing point of about 720 degree centigrade and followed by rapid cooling. And due to this process, heating it up to its annealing point, then rapidly cooling it, etc., the material gets enough strength at the inner surfaces. In the inside surfaces of the glass contracts more than the outer surface during this process, and as a result, actually compressive stresses in the surface of the glass is balanced by tensile stresses in the body of the glass, improving the mechanical and thermal property of the insulating material. That way, the glass insulators are having better mechanical and thermal properties than that of the porcelain insulators. But on the other hand, the glass insulators are costlier than the porcelain insulators. Now, these are the advantages of glass insulators over porcelain insulators. The uh, toughened glass insulators possesses a greater mechanical strength, and therefore there is less breakage in transport and installation. Quite obvious, it is since it is having more mechanical strength, probability of breakage in transport and installation is less. Similarly, they have high thermal shock resistance, and during flashover, the chance of damage due to flashover is less in the case of glass insulators. And toughened glass insulators, they have greater puncture strength, and also due to these reasons, the life of the toughened glass insulators is more than that of the uh, porcelain insulators. On the other hand, glass insulators are costlier than the porcelain insulator. This is the major disadvantage of glass insulators. But in some specific applications, glass insulators are used. Otherwise, in common power system applications, porcelain insulators are the commonly used insulators. Next one is what we have to discuss, the type of the insulators. Now, we shall restrict our discussions on the type of the insulators within the, we shall restrict our discussions within the type of the insulators which are used in high voltage power transmission and in some cases distributions also. There are other types of insulators which are used in LT distribution, etc., which we shall not discuss. That you must have studied by this time in your power system classes. Now, the four different types of insulators which we shall discuss here are the pin insulators, disc insulators, suspension insulators, and strain insulators. Now, apart from these four types of insulator, there is another type of insulator which is also used in high voltage applications, that is the post insulators. So these are the five major types of insulators which are used in high voltage applications. To start with, we shall discuss the pin insulators. Now, the pin insulators, the diagram of which we have seen in our last class. Now the pin insulator is supported on forged steel pin or bolt, which is secured to the supporting structure, that is tower cross arm. Now the straight line conductor is tied to the top group by binding wires which get their support through the side group that is provided. Now at this point, do I need to show you the diagram once again, or do you remember the diagram that we discussed in the last class? Let me see. Okay, in the next slide we shall see the diagram of the pin insulators. Now single piece, another point, single piece type pin insulators, it should be insulators, are often used for lower voltage, but for higher voltage, two or more pieces are connected together to provide sufficient thickness of the porcelain and adequate creepage path. Pin type insulators are used for system voltages less than or equal to 33 kV. Beyond 33 kV, pin insulators become uneconomical. Why it becomes uneconomical, and what is the remedy, that we shall discuss when we shall discuss suspension type of insulators. Now let us see the diagram of the pin insulators in the next slide. Now this is the diagram of the pin insulator, of a single piece pin insulator, I repeat. And here, this is the top group through which the transmission conductor is actually uh, placed through this group. Or transmission conductor is allowed to run through this group, but it is not placed just as it is, but it is tightly placed, securely placed with, and it is tied with the help of binding wires. And these are the side groups. Using these groups, actually binding wires are used. Now this is the pin at the lower end. Now inside the pin insulator, actually there is a threaded groove through which the metallic pin or bolt is placed inside the insulating material, and at the lower end of the groove also there are threads through which actually the pin insulators are placed tightly on the supporting structure, in most of the cases that is tower. Now this is the single piece pin insulator, and here it is double piece pin insulator. This is one, and this is the second one. Now when we use double piece or three pieces pin insulators, then what really happens, the material thickness, or I should say the insulating material thickness, increases. As a result, the creepage distance also increases, and the pin insulator is able to withstand higher voltages. But in this way, if we make a pin insulator which if we want to make a pin insulator which will be able to withstand more than 33 kV voltages, then the overall height of the pin insulator, a single piece pin insulator, becomes so high, and also the creepage distance, etc., simultaneously does not increase up to that extent. As a result, the system becomes uneconomical, and for this reason, beyond 33 kV, we do not use pin insulators, but suspension insulators are used. The next type of insulator is, which is also very frequently used in high voltage applications, is the disc insulator. Now let us discuss this. Sorry. Now this is the disc insulators. This is the diagram of a single disc insulator. There is a metallic top cap. This is the groove through which the transmission conductor passes, and these are the side grooves, I should say, where with the help of binding wires the transmission conductor is securely placed. And here there is a this is the high voltage electrode, And now this is the creepage path, and this is the inside surfaces are protected creepage path. Actually, what really happens, sometimes these pin insulators are normally, sorry, I repeat, I stand corrected. These disc insulators are not really used as a single unit, but in most of the cases, number of disc insulators are tied together so that a unit is formed consisting of large number of disc insulators, and the number of disc insulators in a unit is determined from the application or from the magnitude of the voltage which it has to withstand. Now, while connecting the disc insulators together, what really is done is this: the lower high voltage electrode is fitted in this top cap. In this way, number of electrodes are joined together. I mean, lower high voltage electrode is fitted to the top cap of the next disc insulator. In this way, when the number of disc insulators are tied together or joined together, then they are then actually suspended from the tower cross arm, and the lowermost high voltage electrode supports the transmission line at the bottom. Now, normally the single disc insulators are rated for 11 kV, and they have a height of 16 to 18 centimeter and diameter 28 to 29 centimeters. To withstand higher voltage, as we have discussed, that a number of such discs are connected in series to provide higher voltage insulation. Next, we shall discuss suspension insulators. Now, beyond, as we have been discussing, beyond 33 kV, pin type insulator is uneconomical. High voltage lines are insulated by means of suspension insulators, and suspension insulators are formed just we have discussed, that is joining a number of disc insulators together. Now, and we have also pointed out that the line conductors are suspended below the point of support by means of insulator or a string of insulators. That is, when number of disc insulators are joined together, the unit that is formed are called either suspension insulators and also more popularly string insulators. Actually, at the lowermost end of the string, the lowermost insulator actually holds the transmission line conductor. Now, a string of suspension insulator is formed by joining a number of discs together for high voltage lines. Now, there are two examples. For 132 kV line, 11 to 13 such disc insulators are required to be joined, whereas for 230 kV line, 18 to 20 such disc insulators are required. Now, let us see the diagram. Now, you see, this is the simplified diagram of a tower, and at the top of the tower, the ground wire or the earth wire is supported. Now, from the tower cross arm, you see these are the suspension insulators. For simplicity, clarity, we have just shown 3 units are joined together, but in practice, as we have seen just now, for 11 kV, it is 11 to 13 discs are joined together. And but just to give you an idea, you see at the lower end of the unit, the transmission line conductors or HV conductors are supported. And these are the string of suspension insulators. Now, before we discuss the advantages of suspension insulators, I stop here for 1 minute. If you have any questions, you may ask me.
No, sir.
Okay. Then let us now discuss advantages of suspension insulators. Now, advantage of suspension insulator, the first point that appears in mind, when you make a suspension insulator for any system voltage, maybe 132 kV, maybe 230 kV, actually each individual disc insulator in a unit is rated for a comparatively low voltage of the order of 11 kV, right? That is the first advantage. Now, in high voltage transmission systems, quite often, I should not say quite often, often, sometimes the insulators get damaged due to flashover or some other reasons. Now, if we had used a single unit instead of suspension insulators or string insulators, then in the event of damage of the insulators, the entire unit would have to be replaced. But here, since we are using suspension insulators consisting of number of units, in the event of any damage or failure, only the faulty unit is to be replaced, not the entire unit. Thereby, in the case of use of single unit, the economy will be, I mean, it will not be cost effective, because in the event of failure, you have to replace the entire thing, but here you have to replace the only faulty unit. And obviously, the faulty unit, since it is rated for a lower voltage of the order of 11 kV, its cost will be I mean, considerably less than the entire unit rated for 132 kV or 230 kV. So that is the second advantage of suspension insulators. The third advantage of that, increase in the event of an increase in the operating voltage. Sometimes it is required that the transmission level voltage is required to be increased. But when you increase the transmission level voltage, what really happens? Actually, uh, the supporting insulators, they may not be able to withstand the increased voltage level. In that case, you have to change or replace all such supporting insulators. But in the case of suspension insulators, what all you have to do, you have to add one, two or more, according to the requirement, units, so that the string or the suspension insulators, number of discs used in the string or suspension insulators are increased. Thereby, you don't have to replace the whole thing. Only thing you have to add adequate number of discs. Thereby, again, you are gaining in economy. Next, the mechanical stress that are reduced, since now when we use a single unit pin type insulator, what all you have to do, since the transmission conductors are passing through the top group and they are tied tightly uh, with the help of binding wire in the side group, mechanical stress develops. But here in the case of suspension insulators, the transmission lines are suspended at the bottom of the suspension insulators flexibly, thereby reducing the mechanical stress developed here. So these are the major advantages of suspension insulators. Next, we shall discuss the strain insulator. Now, the strain insulator is one which is used in a place where either there is end or beginning of a high voltage transmission line, or where the high voltage transmission line is actually taking a sharp bend. Now, what really happens if you consider a transmission tower like this, and if we consider at the same time that one high voltage line is coming here and ending at this point, from here another transmission line will go out in the other direction at the same voltage level, then what all you have to do, you have to make a uh, uh, connection between the incoming line and the outgoing line. Two things are to be remembered here, that when the lines are terminated, incoming lines are terminated at a tower, you cannot just connect the transmission line live conductor at the tower, because the tower is at ground potential. So you must have some insulators for connecting the transmission lines, incoming transmission lines, to that tower structure. Now, these are the insulators which are used to accommodate the strain that is developed at the ending point, or on the other side at the exit point of any transmission line at the transmission tower. The insulators which are used for this purpose, they are called the strain insulators. Normal suspension insulators cannot take the horizontal tension where the line has sharp bending or where the line terminates. For that purpose, strain insulators are used, and these strain insulators are slightly modified versions of disc type of insulators. Now, another thing is to be remembered here, that in order to make connection between the incoming and outgoing line, there has to be a conductor which will join these two lines. Now, if you connect this conductor, these two lines with the help of a conductor and just leave it like this and that, then it will be able to swing freely in the event of strong wind. And this connecting conductor is also at live potential. Now, during strong wind, it may so happen that it is swinging vigorously, and ultimately it may come in contact with the tower structure, and in that case there will be a dead short circuit. In order to avoid such situation, another thing, another group of insulators, they are also made up of strain insulators. They are placed here between the tower body and also the connecting wire, and these insulators are used to increase the weight of the system of the connecting wire so that they cannot oscillate or violently or vigorously in the event of strong wind. Now, the conductor which actually connects the two lines together, incoming and outgoing lines, they are sometimes referred to as jumpers. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Is there any question?
No, sir.
Okay. Then we shall discuss the post insulator. Now, the post insulator is also sometimes called the support insulators. Actually, they are used in high voltage laboratories and other things. Unfortunately, we do not know when we shall be able to meet physically. Even now, even today, we do not have any permission for holding classes physically, neither theoretical classes nor uh, practical classes. But in our high voltage laboratory, all these types of insulators you will be able to see, and you will if you are if you become able, or if you can perform these some experiments in high voltage labs which are set on insulators, you in that case you would have got much better or clear idea about all these insulators. Now, in the case of in high voltage laboratories, we always have many high voltage electrodes which are operated at different high voltages. Now, these high voltage electrodes, according to the level of operating voltage, needs definite clearance from the ground. Therefore, we cannot just place them on the ground or any structure which is directly connected in ground, I mean placed on ground, except for the insulators. Now, sorry. Now there are some insulators which are actually manufactured for providing sufficient clearance from the ground of the high voltage electrodes. One such insulator is shown in the diagram, and this insulator is called the post insulator. Now, at the top, you see the high voltage electrode. It is wrongly mentioned high voltage support. It is high voltage electrode. And this is and there is the corona shield. Why the corona shields are used, that we shall discuss. But I shall request you to look at the outer surface or outer contour of the insulator. It is not a straight contour, but there are corrugations on either side of the outer surface of the insulator or outer contour of the insulators. These corrugations have been provided in order to increase the creepage length. That is, in order to provide more resistance to the flow of leakage current. That is why it is not, flat, but there are corrugations. Now coming back to the corona shield. Actually, this being the high voltage electrode, and since we are using a corona shield, which is also a conducting material, that is, this corona shield will also be held at the same potential as that of the high voltage electrode. Therefore, the field lines will actually distributed all over the surface of the corona shield. If there were no corona shield, then the field lines would have been crowded at the sharp ends of the high voltage electrodes, and therefore thereby local field concentrations on the sharp edges of the high voltage electrodes would have been more, and there could be a development of local corona or local ionization of air around the sharp edges of the high voltage electrodes. That is why, in order to increase the surface area of the high voltage electrode, the corona shields are used so that the field concentration is distributed. There is no concentration of field around any point. Is the point clear? Why corona shield is used? Tell me.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, insulator profile. Now, you see, insulator pin and other type of insulators are so designed that the surface of the shades become equipotentials, so as to have less leakage current. Now, if you remember the diagram of the pin or this type of insulators, let us go back to the pin insulator once again, diagram of pin insulator. You see, this is the diagram of pin insulators. So the transmission line conductor will pass through this top group. And you see, these are the shades. They are called the shades, rain shades sometimes. And the body of the insulators is this. Now, these rain shades are sometimes also called petticoats, but the rain shades are the more commonly used term about the outside surfaces of the bulging out sections of the insulators. Now, again, going back to the profile of the insulators, you will see these rain shades are slightly designed and manufactured in such a way that their profile is slightly sloping down. This is done because if we go back to the diagram, You see, this is the line conductor over the top group, and this is the metallic earth pin through which the insulator is placed uh, on the tower cross arm. Then the field lines, electric field lines will be coming out from the live conductor and will terminate at the earth pin. And as we know, field lines and the equipotential lines, they are perpendicular to each other. So these are the field lines and these are the profiles of equipotential lines. Now, the outside surfaces or rain shades of the insulators are made slightly sloping down so that their surfaces lie along the equipotential lines. Now, if the surfaces can be made to lie along the equipotential surfaces, then since the surface lies along the equipotential surface or equipotential line, then along that surface, the probability of flowing of the leakage current will be much less. Thereby, the insulating property of the insulator is further increased by properly designing the shape of the insulator. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Sir, can you
Yeah.
repeat the reason again why the surface of shade should remain in parallel with the
Now,
equipotential?
yes, I tell you. Now, what will be the value of flow of current or magnitude of current on an equipotential surface? Since it is equipotential, surface is held at equipotential, or that is, the potential at any point or all along the surface is same. Now, if the potential remains same all along the surface, the question of flowing of current does not arise. For the flow of current, you need potential difference. Only when there is some potential difference between 2 points or two parts, then only current from the higher potential may flow to lower potential. This is the reason why the surfaces or the rain shades of the insulators are manufactured in such a way that they lie along the equipotential lines or equipotential surfaces, and if they lie along the equipotential surfaces, then the probability of flow of current along such a surface will be very less, and thereby we shall be able to improve the property of the insulator. Is that okay now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then another thing, that is a shackle type of insulator or spool insulator. You just have a look on it. They are used sometimes, but again, they are used for at places where either the line terminates or originates, but their use is restricted. Again, in the case of low voltage distribution lines only. You just have a look. Give me 1 minute time.
So does the shackle insulator comes under the strain insulator?
Pardon?
Sir, is it true that shackle insulator comes under the strain insulator?
Yes, but strain insulators, truly speaking, are named, to those insulators which are used in high voltage transmission or distribution lines. The same type of insulator, the purpose of the shackle insulator is same as that of the strain insulators, but since they are used in LT distribution lines, they are called the shackle insulators or spool insulators. Okay.
Yes, sir.
The diagram is like this. Just have a look on this. I am coming just within 2 minutes. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now again, two more things. That is form factor of an insulator. Form factor is actually expressed either of the two ways. That is, it is integration between 0 to L, where L is the length of the entire creepage path. Integration between 0 to L dl by pi into d suffix L. Now, where dl is the diameter at any point of the creepage length. It is also expressed as integration between 0 to L by elemental creepage at a particular point, circumference at that point. This is one way by which we can define the form factor of an insulator. Form factor can also be defined in terms of height. It is it can be defined in terms of L or height of the insulator H, that is between 0 to H, dH by pi dH. Again, d suffix H is d. There should not be any dot here. It will be dH simply by pi dH, where dH is the d suffix H is the diameter at height H. So this is how we can define the form factor. The last topic which we shall discuss, that is the voltage distribution in suspension insulators. Now here you see, it is the same diagram we have seen sometimes back. Again, for clarity, we have considered only 3 suspension insulators in a unit, and 3 disc insulators in a unit. Now, actually, at the lower end, the suspension insulators are holding or supporting the high voltage conductor. And at the top, it is supported from the tower cross arm. Therefore, at the lower end of the suspension insulators, live potential is there. At the top end of the suspension insulator, ground potential is there, or arc potential is there. Now, in between, so far as the individual units of the insulators are concerned, the voltage distribution along the units of the suspension insulators, to be more specific, along the disc insulators of the suspension insulator are not uniform. They vary. And it has been found that as you move away from the live conductor and move towards the ground conductor, the voltage across the discs starts decreasing. It has been found that maximum voltage drop takes place across the disc nearest to the conductor, and it is minimum voltage drop occurs across the disc which is nearest to the earth or earth conductor. Now, in order to verify or establish these things, we have to replace the disk insulators with the help of their electrical equivalent circuit, which is shown on the right. And since we are considering the insulators, we are not considering, we are considering the ideal case. We are not considering any leakage current existing here. That is why, and we are further assuming that no current actually flows along any resistive path along the insulator. The whole thing then can be replaced by each and individual discs placed between the arc electrode and the live electrode. Each individual disc can be replaced by their equivalent capacitances. In the equivalent circuit, these capacitances have been shown by C prime. That is equal to M into C. What is M? We shall discuss. Do you agree that the insulators, each individual unit of disk insulator can be replaced by its equivalent capacitance as shown in the figure? And since all the disks which are being used to form the suspension insulators are identical, therefore their individual capacitances will also be identical. That is why all such capacitances have been considered as or shown as C prime. Is that okay? Do you agree?
Sir, all the disc insulators are touched
Pardon?
each other. Then how it formed a capacity?
Just a minute. Just hold on.
স্যার আপনারটা মিউট করা।
Now tell me the question.
Sir, all the insulator are touching each other. Then how it forms a
Yes?
capacitor? I mean, is there any air gap between
No,
two
no, no.
insulators?
Yes, yes. No, no, not really air gap. What is there inside is, I said that how suspension insulator unit is formed. Actually, if you remember the diagram of disk insulator, at the lower end there is a high voltage electrode and there is a which is fitted to the top metallic cap of the next lower electrode disk insulator. So in between the two metallic portions, there is a insulating body. Let me go back to the diagram of disk insulator. Yes, this one. You see, this metallic portion is fitted to the top metallic cap of the next disk insulator, which is placed lower. Right?
Yes, sir.
In that case, between two metallic sections, there is a insulating body. Now this metallic section and the metallic section just below it, they are not held at same potential, and therefore we can consider this metallic section top cap or electrode, and the lower electrode has two different electrodes held at two different potentials, and in between them there is an insulator or insulating materials. Now, whenever we have two electrodes maintained at different potentials and we have in between some insulating material, a capacitance is formed. This is the reason why in the case of suspension insulators, we can replace each unit by its capacitance.
Sir, for maintenance purpose, I mean, it's a capacitor. So for maintenance purpose, if we touch the insulator, it will be dangerous.
When under live condition,
No, I mean, if the live condition is off, but the capacitor has been charged, then it will form a voltage difference if we.
that is why live in the case of high voltage systems, whenever you want to touch any high voltage equipment or insulator, whatever it may be, even after switching off the power, you have to touch with the help of ground rod or ground connections the high voltage equipments, so that the trapped charges flow to the ground. Only after then you can touch them. Otherwise, due to the trapped charges, if you touch the high voltage systems, even after withdrawal of power, disconnection of power, then you may get a shock.
Okay.
And why the trap charges are there? This is simply because there are capacitors which are formed in between and which hold charges as trap charges. These charges have to be given some path for flowing charges should be given some path for the flow to the ground. Okay.
Yes.
Now, after this, in the equivalent circuit, you will see another set of capacitances. They are these C. Okay. How these capacitances are formed?
Between two
These-
phases,
Yes.
between two conductors.
Between ground and
horizontal
live
conductor.
conductor.
Between ground and conductor.
Between the
Ground.
tower body and the
And the top caps.
ins. Yeah.
Whenever you join two disc insulators together, there is a metallic section in between. That metallic section is held at some potential, though all the metallic sections are not held at same potential. Potentials are different, but they are held at different potentials. Now there is a definite clearance of those metallic portions from the tower body. The suspension insulators are suspended vertically from the tower cross arm, and the distance of those metallic sections and the tower body is same for all the units. Therefore, the capacitances that will be formed between those metallic portions and the tower body will be same. That is why they have been considered as C. All such capacitors. Is that okay? And C prime is equal to M into C, that is some fraction of this is equal to M. Now, the voltage distribution. Now, these things we have discussed. Now, the capacitances which are formed between the metallic sections and the tower body, they are called the self-capacitances, mutual capacitances, and the capacitances of the individual discs are called the self-capacitances. Normally, the self capacitances are denoted by C prime and the mutual capacitances by C. Now, again, this is how we define M. The ratio between the mutual capacitance and the ground capacitance, C prime by C. Truly speaking, in some books, you will find it is the ratio between the self capacitances and ground capacitances. There is a printing mistake. It should be self, not mutual. Self capacitance by ground capacitance, that is equal to C prime by C, that is equal to M, or C prime is equal to MC. Now again, let us find out the voltage distribution. That is the last thing we shall discuss. Let at any instant the potential of high voltage conductor is positive and equals to capital V. From the figure, this figure, V is equal to then will be at any instant of time, since we are considering instantaneous values, V is equal to V1 plus V2 plus V3 plus V4. That is all. That should be equal to V, the voltage or potential of the high voltage conductor. Now, this is one important point. Net charges at nodes 1, 2, and 3 will be 0, as these nodes are not connected to any supply. Then the amount of charge entering at node 1 will flow to ground through the shunt capacitance and mutual capacitance connected to node 1. I go back to the figure. You see, this is node 1, 2, 3, and they are not connected directly to any source. Therefore, whatever amount of charge enters from the supply and reaches node 3 must flow to ground through this capacitance C, and some of the charges flow to node 2 through this capacitance C prime. Therefore, what we can write again, if we start from node 1, what is the amount of charge entering node 1? That is the charge coming from the capacitance just below it. Therefore, the magnitude of the charge that will reach the node 1 should be equal to C prime into V2 or MC V2. Is that okay? That is the charge which will enter node 1. Do you agree? The amount of charge entering node 1 will be MC V2.
Please repeat.
I tell you that from here, from the live conductor, definitely some charges will flow through this capacitance and will actually reach node 3. The amount of charge which reaches node 3 divides into two parts. One is flowing to the ground through this capacitance C. Remaining flows to the node 2 through this capacitance C prime. Again, the amount of charge which reaches node 2 again divides itself, and a part flows to ground through capacitance C here, and the other part flows to node 1 through the capacitance C prime here. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Therefore, the amount of charge which flows through the capacitance connected between tower cross arm and node 1, between node 1 and node 2, between node 2 and node 3, and between node 3 and high voltage conductor goes on reducing as you move away from the conductor and move towards the Tower cross arm, is that okay? The magnitude of charges flowing through the self capacitances.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Therefore, the magnitude of voltage or the voltage drop across these units is equal to what? Capacitive reactance into current. And what is current? Flow of charge. Since we see that the charges that flow through these self capacitances goes on decreasing continuously as you move away from the high voltage conductor and move towards the ground conductor, then what really happens? Since all the units are same, their capacitive reactances are same, but the amount of current that is flowing through them is reducing as you move from lower end to the upper end. Therefore, the voltage drop that will be taking place across these units will be decreasing in nature. The maximum voltage drop will take place across the lowermost disk, and the minimum voltage drop will take place across the uppermost disk. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Now again, what is the amount of charge that is entering node 1? That is the charge coming from node 2 via this capacitance. And what is the magnitude of the charge? Q is equal to CV. What is the value of C? C prime, that is equal to MC. MC into V2, that is the voltage across this capacitance. So this is the charge. MC V2 is the charge entering node 1. And that charge will divide itself once through the capacitance, this one, and the other through the capacitance, I mean ground capacitance C. Therefore, can we write MCV2 is equal to C into V1 plus MC into V1?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then let us find out the other steps. You see, at node 2, here you see, at node 1, MCV2 is equal to MCV1 plus CV1. At node V3, at node 2, again, at node 2, at node 2, what is the charge entering? MCV3. What are the charges leaving? MC V1 plus V2, that is the voltage of node 2 with respect to ground, MC V1 plus V2, and plus C. Yes, somebody should tell me. MC V3 is equal to what? What is the voltage across the ground capacitance with respect to ground? C into what? V1 plus V2 or simply V2?
V1 plus V2.
Yes. So MCV3 will be equal to MCV2 plus C into V1 plus V2. Okay. And in the case of node 3, MCV4, that will be equal to C into V1 plus V2 plus V3 plus MCV3. So these are the things we are writing here. You see here, MCV3 is equal to MCV2 plus C into V1 plus V2. This is our equation A and B. And at node 3, MCV4 is equal to MCV3 plus C into V1 plus V2 plus V3. That is equal to C. From A, we can write MCV2 is equal to CV1 plus MCV1. From there, dividing both sides by MC, we can write V2 is equal to V1 plus V1 by M. And from B, we can write V3 is equal to V2 plus V1 plus V2 by M. And from C, we can write V4 plus V4 is equal to V3 plus V1 plus V2 plus V3 by M. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Now you see from equation 1, 2, and 3, what we can see, that is, you see V2 is equal to V1 plus V1 by M. Now M is a fraction, right? So V2 will be V1 plus maybe some fraction, but it will be V1 plus some fraction of V1. That is, definitely V2 will be greater than V1.
Yes.
Okay. So V2 should be or will be greater than V1. Similarly, V3 is equal to V2 plus some fraction of V1 plus V2. So it will be definitely higher or than V2, more than V2. Do you agree with this? Both V1, V2 being positive and M being a fraction. So it will be V2 plus some fraction of V1 plus V2. So it should be higher than, or it should be more than V2.
Yes.
Similar is the case for V4, it will be more than V3. That is what it has been written. Therefore, we see that V4 is greater than V3, is greater than V2, greater than V1. Now, these things we have discussed, that as we are moving, as we move from lower end to the upper end of the suspension insulator, the voltage drop taking place across the disc goes on decreasing, and this is the reason. And the reason behind it is this: as we move from lower end to upper end, at each and every metallic section, the charge gets divided or discharged, and is a portion or a percentage of charge flows to ground through the ground capacitance, or sometimes they are called shunt capacitances. That is why the charge actually flowing through the individual or self capacitances goes on decreasing, and thereby the drops developing across the units also decrease. That is why the voltage distribution is non-uniform. And here we have considered instantaneous values, voltage distribution. Since we have considered the instantaneous values, they will be valid for RMS voltages also. Now we have to discuss the, or we have to express V2, V3, V4, etc. in terms of V1, but that we shall discuss in our next class. With this, we stop here today. But I am having a typical problem, and I am referring that problem is my own problem, but it is, I think you are more accustomed than us, we people, in using electronic gadgets, etc. So I hope you will be, some of you will be able to provide me the solution. Actually, I am having one Bluetooth earphone, which earlier I used to connect while taking classes in Google Meet, using Google Meet platform, and that earphone used to work quite nicely. But nowadays, I do not know why. Whenever I try to connect it, while taking any class using Google Meet platform, immediately you saw it sometime back, it happened. Immediately my microphone gets turned off and some crackling noise starts coming.
Sound হয়ে গেছে।
Kunta, no, but that earphone, when I use for listening